versus Fnatic. This is this world-class team,
Right.
and so it did cause some communication breakdown. But now game 1 is in the bag. Just forget about it, and they have been on the stage now in front of the crowd, so hopefully we'll be feeling a little more comfortable at this point.
Time to get into draft number 2 here as Uther gets banned out. Fnatic going up against Red Canids. Fnatic currently 1 game up, Skimmy.
I think Grubby summed it up pretty well. It's what is the impression or what's the sort of mentality Red Canids have going into this? Are they expecting to lose or are they wanting to go in with absolutely anything at any cost, right? So do they need to play the cheese to try and secure a win? Or is it all about playing the meta, analysing how Fnatic respond to that and taking that replay and analysing it?
I mean, the one thing that stands out for me on this map can sometimes be Malthael. Do we get to see a Malthael here or there or anywhere between these two teams on this map? It's a pretty good map for it.
Strong possibility. He's great around the shrine phases. He's
Yeah.
able to keep his mark popped on multiple people. He's helping out with the clear as well. He can force a fight with that Tormented Souls at any point, which is always a major threat. With Uther being banned out from Fnatic, I feel like they might not go down that route. You see Uther combo with that Malthael very often, but Sonya also very strong here. Greymane great for the cocktail.
Yeah.
Anything that can poke and clear shrines but also be effective in fights, you're going to see.
I anticipate Greymane to be very high up between one of these two
There it
teams.
is.
And in fact, the first pick for Fnatic, they are not
pretty high.
willing to give Greymane over to Red Canids yet again. So Canids are quick to
Oh.
get Volatas, though it's a great combo.
But themselves banning out the Ariel off the back of that, so interesting little moves.
And this kind of yells what Fnatic expected to come from Red Canids. One of the strongest combinations they can have with Tassadar is Uther and then Ariel right afterwards. So both of those now being banned out, Red Canids themselves will have to go down a different route. And this is where the question of Stukov starts to come out a little bit. Stukov and Tassadar can be effective together.
I'm glad you bring that point up because I say you've got the control, especially if you go for the lurking arm build where you can sit from afar, you can place it on the objective, and if you are going for an aggressive comp led by the likes of Greymane, well, you're stuck, you feel so immobilized, and it's your hero just has no interaction at all.
It's not even just kind of placing it on the objective itself, it's blocking the chokes into the
Absolutely.
objective. That can be very scary, right?
Yeah, we didn't hear too much about specific battlegrounds where teams believe that he would be strong, except specifically that this might be one of them, Infernal Shrines, because of that reason. You can silence them, do the damage when people are trying to go in and out of the chokes, and potentially make them have to take a different route out, which is just enough time to maybe get a kill on them.
And another strong foundation for Fnatic here. They have Greymane, Genji, and Anub'arak. A little bit sad to see the Anub'arak. I was hoping to see that Diablo from Breeze, which is always strong on this battleground. Also pretty solid against double support, in my opinion, in the early games. You're able to force those fights, hold the corridors that you were mentioning earlier, but they do leave up the possibility of Stukov coming in. So we'll see what Fnatic will ban out later, and then Red Canids now thinking about their ban.
Red Canids is not a stranger to Diablo either, so you might still get Diablo yet. Would be nice to try to control the Genji especially, be able to throw him around and maybe even be able to take him out. He's a hard one to kill with all his mobility.
Yeah, he'll definitely need D.Va to help him beat that Diablo, as I've seen in many movies in the past.
Wasn't that
Many of
Deathwing?
them.
I couldn't
Oh,
tell.
no, you missed out. That was the Deathwing. I know the wings are confusing.
Oh,
they really
okay. I swear it was Deathwing for a second.
But just look at this. I mean, it's so much of a sort of choke support hold. You have the support picked up in Tesla in the first rotation, 3 support bans right off there. It seems to be this is the meta shift with the likes of Genji being changed, that everyone's just putting all their eggs into that basket. And I suppose the likes of Smexy isn't going to be too phased by this, but this is an execution that could really affect other teams.
Very rarely do you get to see this much choke on supports nowadays. This is pretty crazy.
I am kind of curious if Red Canids are hoping to get Brightwing here. Fnatic might want to ban out the Brightwing because Cleanse being available and also pretty good with Tassadar. And the idea is that Red Canids would possibly go into their variant again later on. So we'll see what Red Canids is wanting to move into.
The thing is that wherever Red Canids goes, I feel like Fnatic doesn't mind a support choke because they can just go Karazim if they want.
Exactly.
They've got plenty of options.
Which I think is what Red Canids expected with the support choke, is they would get a Brightwing ban so they could just grab the Karazim themselves and make Fnatic be in a weaker spot. But Fnatic, not biting here, is going to go ahead and ban out Sonya, and now Red Canids can move into what they would like.
I feel like Red Canids has to. I mean, I shouldn't be the one be saying this, but I feel like they have to go Stukov because it's going up against Fnatic. You're probably not going to win the series, so throw out some kind of craziness a little bit here and there.
The only thing I'm worried about with Stukov is the dive potential is pretty crazy for Fnatic.
Yeah, true.
And if you're able to lock down Stukov, you have Genji on there messing him up, you have Greymane bringing the damage too. He can do well, but...
So could you have a Brightwing Emerald win?
Yeah, Brightwing Emerald win could be good.
Maybe, but we're still talking about Vieira as well with the Stukov. We have to remember that he hasn't gotten the chance to scrim with him with the team, so may not feel confident. If this is the place to bring it out, of course, they're up against Fnatic, but I don't know that they'll be wanting to do that. going to be
Brightwing.
Brightwing instead.
I was just going to say, the only support really left on his roster was the Brightwing. He did play Kerosene back in the mid-season brawl, but it's something that's really fallen out of favor. When the support choke is as big as this, it becomes a far more attractive option. I mean, let's just chuck it out there. Lily could even be a thing.
It's been played.
Yeah.
That's how
Panda time.
That's
I
how.
don't know. I love myself a good Lily pick, but can't go wrong with Brightwing, am I right?
Yeah, you're not. I mean, you are right here. Totally Brightwing. Pick up, not too shabby here. Fnatic thinking about the move into. They have two options to me. They have Kerosene, able to move in for the dive, get the aggressive play that you expect from Fnatic, and then we've been talking about the Stukov, which we have mentioned Smexy does enjoy. We asked him about Stukov, and he actually smiled, gave a thumbs up. He's like, you know what? It's okay. It's pretty good.
I mean, this composition has the potential to be a death ball,
Yeah.
where everything is, you're honing on one target, and likely Greymane, Genji, and Anubarak are going to be very close in proximity, so it could work.
Give us our first Stukov of the tournament,
I want it.
Fnatic. If anyone's going to do
There
it,
he
yes,
is!
it is.
The Admiral's back! He was never here to begin with, but he's here.
Oh, and
Oh.
Azul.
Wow, we are getting an EU special of late. Alex Saprogi in particular running the roaming Azul. Azul has been adapted lately. He's a little bit better in team fights. Missing out on the sustain because he's lost out on a couple of his builds. But now he's certainly great in team fights. And when it comes to Infernal Shrine, soaking that middle and that bottom lane will be something that both Dahaka and Brightwing may have to deal with.
Very importantly, they've switched now to the Admiral skin there for Stukov. It's very important that we keep that going. And now, Red Canids, one more choice. What's it going to be?
They need their warrior.
This can go Varian again? I feel like they're just kind of stuck in this mode where they move into it. There is the possibility of grabbing Johanna instead here. They may have enough wave clear already with Dahaka and Brightwing.
Oh.
But
What about Arthas? There's a lot of melee on Fnatic's side to try to slow them down. He's good at hanging out on the shrine too and provides some of the damage that's lost in the double warrior, double support.
Can we get a Stitch's slam bill, maybe?
Stitch's slam bill would be good, but we haven't seen it much from Red Canids. It's going to be that Arthas.
I was going to say, I think it depends where Red Canids find their strength in this comp, right? So they've got the Vala from the backline with the double support. Generally speaking, you're looking for those team fights and those prolonged situations. And if you're seeing what Fnatic have, it's all about getting the control. For me, I'm looking at that and saying, Stukov on the objective, we win that every time. You have to make some crazy play with Arthas initiating and sacrificing Vala's positioning herself.
I mean, there's a huge problem not only in the lurking arm being a problem, but also what we're seeing a lot from pros, which is the triple slap. I can't remember what it's called. It's the evolution of the triple tap from Nova. It's the triple slap. It's that one. Flailing swipe. I think. There you go. But it's powerful at level 10. When you're able to use it in the right situation with a coordinated team, and it's mega powerful at level 20, right?
Like controlled chaos.
Yeah, it is controlled chaos. I mean, it makes it very hard for members to dive in. Greymane moves in, you drop down the slap, hopefully you get him against a wall, you bring in the polymorph afterwards from the other side to maybe slow them down. But yes, Stukov can really control the entire fight there for Fnatic.
What are we thinking about the draft overall?
I'm thinking, the Stukov, from what I've noticed in Game 1 with Quack on the Falstead, it seems to be every time they have these aggressive comps, they have at least one emergency SOS button, right? You've got the Gust, in this case you have the Flailing Swipe. If things do go south, if the aggression from the Brazilians is too much for them to handle, they do have that panic button. They can get themselves out of harm's way and they can restabilize.
What it feels like to me is that we're seeing Red Canids be so concerned about the globals of Fnatic that they are investing heavily in that, but that still is not the style that they promised that they were going to bring. But I'm hopeful that in this case we're going to be able to see them really bring it to Fnatic as early as the first shrine phase.
Yeah, I'm worried if they're going to be able to pull off the coordination that's needed to take down a Brightwing and Dahaka. I mean, Wubby is used to being in a solo lane, having pressure come his way. You've seen it multiple times in Europe, so it's going to be difficult for them. But they do have the tools here. Vala, Tassadar, being next to each other constantly, going in for the aggressive plays, get a call out. It's going to be about communication for me. This is something that we were talking about from game number 1. Will they all be on the same page and get the kills they want? If not, they're going to be punished heavily.
All right. Well, I mean, what do we think of the first Stukov overall? Think it's going to be successful here? Yeah?
I'm just really curious as to what build it's going to be. Lurking Arm was the go-to for a very long time since the balance patch. We've seen a lot more into the weighted posture with the extended range as well as the permanent lockdown of that. I'm just curious to see what Smexy innovates because I'm sure wherever he goes, the rest of the tournament will follow suit.
I will say, it's scary. I mean, look at it. Zul in a Bone Prison into a Silence afterwards. That is a deadly combo when you have a Genji and a Greymane diving in.
There you go. Well, guys, we can now head over to the commentary team to find out what they think about going into second game. Guys, excited for our first Stukov?
I'm really excited. I've been hyped about Stukov since we got the announcement of a new support. I'm always going to be a fanboy.
I want to see Fnatic show this monster that is Stukov. It's going to be cool to see how he will do, of course, here against Red Canids.
Take it away, guys. Thank you.
All right, we've got the draft ready here. Dreadnought, what do you think?
I adore what we see out of Fnatic here. I do wonder how much of this is, they've already got one game up over Red Canids. They're probably feeling confident. We know they're comfortable as a team to be able to flex things out whenever they have that. I want to know how much of that is that, or how much of this is, they actually feel like the Zul-Stukov synergy might be meta.
I mean, Fnatic had kind of a luxury problem that they highlighted in their pre-game interview. They said they don't know how good anything is. They don't know how good Stukov is. When they play Stukov, they win. When they play against Stukov, they win. They are the boys from Sweden, Quacknix, Wooby, Shrimpy, Breeze, and SMX. It's Fnatic here in the blue.
And in the red, we have Latin America's Red Canids, where we are going to find ourselves with J-Shrite on the Vala. We have Lessaceris onto the Tassadar, Typhex on Dahaka, Tulin on the Arthas, and Brightwing played by Vieira.
Now, I look at the composition here for Red Canids, and they said that they're going to be aggressive, but I feel like they've been fibbing a little bit against us in that pre-game interview, because I see the comp here for Red Canids, and they are pure damage and sustain. Survivability and damage. And yeah, they've got some lockdown, but in a composition like this, it's going to be difficult for them to be aggressive.
It is, but we did see, at least with that Brightwing teleport, they're trying to make some plays here. It is possible. It's just a different, maybe, form of aggression with that double teleport. I agree with you, though. It does not seem to at least match the bar that they claim to set, at least in those early pre-tournament interviews.
Yeah, and my issue is Arthas. Arthas is one of the best defensive heroes in the game. He says, come at me, but come at me slowly. Treat me gently. Arthas says that. Without Syndragoza, he doesn't have such an easy, reliable way to engage. And Stukov is almost oppressively powerful in the niche where he is able to be played. But he is kind of weak against dive. He's kind of weak against hard engage. And Red Canids isn't running that at all. There is no Diablo or Muradin or a Nubarek that jumps in and causes just havoc and destruction and disruption. It's Arthas. He gets one Howling Blast, and then he kind of walks at the opponent in his cool boots. And that's about it. And that worries me here for Red Canids.
It worries me, just knowing that he's going to, in the same manner, walk in and try and be able to initiate that fight. Yes, he does have the double support, but Tassadar and Brightwing, neither burst healers. And then we're going to watch ourselves with that Zul, and then the silence coming out from Stukov is just going to be 2 seconds of an Arthas, no ability to use. It's going to be longer than 2 because he has to walk out of the maximum range, and we do have the expansion there with the growing infestation. Was the level 1 talent for Smexy there on to the Stukov. At level 4, we see him picking up, oh man, vigorous re-uptake.
Yeah, getting that bonus burst healing
Vieira.
after completing the quest. Now big engage on Vieira. Gets the Tassadar shield. Lurking arm.
Look at that silence. Nobody can do anything. Just once we see that root, no one can stand. But the rebuttal there, Tulin with that very nice slow, managing to capitalize and punishing Fnatic. Quacknix, though, in a questionable position. He managed to get the disengage. But this is still Red Canids putting up a very solid fight early on.
Yeah, Arthas is a great defensive hero, and he gets that counterattack. Brightwing, one of the best heroes to die if you had to choose one, as she can port back onto the battlefield. And this was the first takedown of Red Canids against Fnatic, period. They had 0 takedowns last game. Now they have the 1. They get the first Punisher. Just like last game, they get ahead with the objective early, and let's see what they can do with it. Very important now not to die in the solo lanes. Arthas and Dahaka, who Red Canids has elected to defend top and mid, need to stay alive. Everything will spiral out of control if that's not the case. And a nice pusher in the meantime with the double support Vala.
Yeah, we'll see how much they manage to get done. That's a lot of pressure onto the fort, and it's likely that is going to go over here to Red Canids, so it's very nice that they find themselves opening up aspects of this map, maybe be able to catch Fnatic off if they, again, struggle with an initiation. And it does seem like the 2 moments where Red Canids does, so far in these games, have the best opportunity within these skirmishes is if the initiation from Fnatic doesn't get the kill immediately. It takes a couple of seconds and then they can get that turn. So maybe this is something we can be looking forward to maybe in the remainder of this game, especially now that Brightwing has the cleanse to ideally deal with that synergy we saw at that level 4 skirmish between the lockdown of Zul and that silence of Stukov.
Yeah, I think you highlighted it perfectly. It's a counterattack strategy that Red Canids has to leverage to try and get ahead in this game. And, you know, anytime you have a Vala double support composition, you need to do well in the early game. Anytime you just have damage and healing to win for you, you got to do well in that early game. And, you know, they're doing a lot better than I expected. Tulin now walks over the bed of barbs, gets slowed, gets damaged, goes down to the side from Wooby.
Max range there coming out from Wubby, but Breeze found himself in a pretty rough spot. Gets the burrow charge away, drops the shield, but it does not matter. The passive from Typhix there.
Very nice.
Very well done. Red Canids, man, I am still very impressed with their performance through the first couple of minutes, but the problem that we saw in game number 1 is, yes, this did last for only minutes, and quickly the game did move into Fnatic's favor. So it's now keeping the tone that they've been able to set here on Infernal Shrines up for the remainder of this game.
Yeah, they need to keep it up. They need to stay sharp and not make any mistakes. So far it looks good. The game is fairly calm still. Now, of course, Fnatic is still waiting to leverage that level 4 talent, Vigorous Reuptake. They're about 1/3 of the way done with that talent on Stukov, where he gets a lot more burst protect. But as it stands, Stukov, we haven't really seen him yet at LAN tournaments. We've seen him a little bit in HGC Open Division in terms of HGC, but he is the newest hero to the Nexus. He just got enabled for competitive play, and it's gonna be curious to see how he will do.
Yeah, with the within my reach is going to allow Smex to get the opportunity of hitting that silence from a much safer position. It's we hear a lot of teams comparing Stukov to Malfurion in the way that they heal and kind of function, and it's almost Stukov's Elun's Grace, if you will. Though it does only affect his silence, that's really the most impactful part of Malfurion, is the increased range onto those roots. And so now, with the second shrine of the game up, Red Canids has committed far more members than that of Fnatic, and they'll be able to pick a quick couple of skeletal defenders up, but it looks like Fnatic is going to concentrate on finding themselves a fort on other areas of the map.
Yeah, and it's not even just Zul, which is customary on this map to double rotate Zul. It's in fact a Zul Greymane double pressure on the bottom fort, so that means that the Punisher going to Red Canids is a foregone conclusion. Fnatic is everywhere except at that northern playground. They're putting pressure here in the middle with Stukov and Nubarak. Bottom is Zul and Greymane. And the question is, if they can get a fort here, what can Red Canids get from that objective? Is Red Canids overvaluing this Frozen Punisher here, or can they get equal or greater value?
If they were able to get that pick or any form of a kill, it very much would be a positive trade for them. But we're going to find out. Nice dodge there onto the leap of the Punisher. It's only the second one of the game, and we know that these are pretty weak in the Siege department, but because the failure of 2 members of Fnatic to be able to respond to this fort, it does look like we will find Red Canids picking up another structure for themselves.
Oh, Dreadnought, this is going to be it. As the Punisher drops to 20% life, Fnatic has chosen this moment to mount a defense here, bringing all 5 in. Zul, Wooby, where are you going? He's going back to the mid lane.
Yeah.
He just Hearthstone out, and I was sure that it was going to be a 5-man defense there in the top lane, but Red Canids makes themselves scarce on time. They pull out, and they will not have a major confrontation. And the game is even once again. Red Canids is upholding their strength here admirably against Fnatic, going toe-and-toe.
Fnatic, though, has volunteered to be able to give up both of the Punishers we've seen so far. Hold on a minute here. Nice drag setup. But it looks like that is all it's going to be, is merely a setup. But they've forfeited the first 2 objectives of the game. And yes, they have only managed to get 1 for it compared to the 2 of Red Canids. But Fnatic knows what they're doing. I mean, this is a legitimate world champion team. Oh, man, Tulin about a bit too far. Is the Brightwing heal enough? It is.
I mean, that was close. I'm not going to say that was calculated, but it was certainly a very nice save. Arthur's dropping to 3%.
Yeah.
Brightwing comes in with the heals.
Yeah, that was very, very close here. And the fact that it's still 2-2, I mean, it's just that what I was trying to say is that Fnatic is now in a position to where I would expect them to try and take the 5 versus 5s. It seems like they were stopping the bleeding and realizing they can't maybe win skirmishes early on, or at least it felt like that was what their body language was kind of indicating in those rotations. But now that the 10s hit, I expect them to be the aggressors, willing to take those kind of team fights here. And if not, I'm questioning what power spike are they aiming for, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. It could just be the higher punitive value of takedowns that they are after, recognizing that they may be less prone to making mistakes in the mid to late game than Red Canids, as rotations become increasingly difficult, increasingly more complex. It could just be the experience of a long game that Fnatic is going after. And if you kind of look at the early to mid game, Red Canids gets the double objective, they're ahead of Fort, but they're down in XP. That's the value of Fnatic's map control, of their rotations, of the way that they've been out-soaking experience, even against the double global of Red Canids.
Typhex caught out in rotation there. He's going to drop his heroic. He gets a lot of value out of that heal. Typhex now actually gets the heal too, coming out from Vieira in that teleport, and they survive the initiation. This is going to give a temporary advantage over these skeletal defenders for Red Canids. Vieira, though, maybe caught out.
He's got an escape point on the lane. And of course, the Haka used his essence, he used his adaptation.
Oh.
And here's the second attempt. That's a lurking arm, that's a kill on Vala. Getting called out. The first major mistake here for Red Canids. Fnatic finds the opportunities and takes them.
They do, and only 10 skeleton defenders were achieved in that small window the Red Canids found themselves with. That's not enough to deter, you know, Fnatic typically at that like 30 or 35. Maybe you could throw out a couple of spells and claim yourself that third Punisher. But now this one is going to be Fnatic's. It's just going to be Red Canids sending Typhex out to the side, making sure he gets that side soak, making sure they cut their losses here.
Stukov is 4 out of 50 stacks away. 4 healing bursts on his ally to get that bonus healing on that vigorous reuptake. He will get another 40% extra healing when he presses his trait hotkey bio kill switch. Meantime, Schwimpy has to use Dragon Blade to get away.
100 seconds where that is not going to be available for a team fight. A window that maybe Red Canids might try and capitalize on. Howling Blast doesn't land there onto Smex, and looks like that is enough to deter Red Canids.
Oh, that's an early dimensional shift. He wasn't actively taking any damage. This is on a 30-second cooldown. Lithosaurus is now a valid target. In the meantime, Vala, of all people, gets caught out in the cocoon, prepared by a Nubarak, and it will get finished off.
I mean, it just feels like Fnatic is so very effective at taking all 1v1s in small 2v2 skirmishes and just making sure they get a win in one of them. And if they fail or seem at least at a disadvantage for even a fraction of a second, they give up on one and then commit elsewhere onto the map. But now with the Punisher up into this keep, it is only 3 members of Fnatic that have decided to siege up with it, but the 16 will be closing in right after this turret.
And there is the disengage if need be. Stukov has picked up that flailing swipe, the triple knockback at large range. So they know they can do the 3-man pushing, get some value. The Haka silenced.
Unable to do anything there. Stukov, so very impressive. And also the synergy there coming out from Quax. Hitting the flask, having the cursed bullet. We know the damage and threat that Fnatic is able to put onto the front lines. And sadly, Red Canids found themselves on maybe the wrong end of that spear. Or I guess it's a gun, huh? Probably more of a gun. Oh, we'll stick with gun.
Actually, it sounds more like a bow and arrow. That's always bothered me. It's kind of like a flute.
Yeah?
Like a flute with darts, you know, dart thing. But yeah, it's a bullet.
I agree with you. It does sound a little bit less like a bullet now that you say it. All right, but here we are. Fnatic's pressure up into the front lines. Red Canids just needs the 16 talents here. At this point, all they're focusing on is just trying to make sure they catch up, and then hopefully they can fight over that window. The difference that we see between games 1 and 2, though, is the fact that we saw a 3-level lead, 16 and the 13 mark, whereas this is only, you know, we're looking at about 1.5 to 2.5 level lead, judging all the way up through level 20. So there should be 2 fights, because we are in Infernal Shrines and it is generally a slower map, that Red Canids can take as long as the downtime between fight 1 and 2 is not too devastating against them.
Exactly, and that fight, that first timing is coming up, is rapidly approaching Dreadnought. This is it. Red Canids is looking to initiate, but Howling Blast already misses. And they need to do the wave clear. This is how you prevent the opponent from taking an opportunity to get a comeback. Look at Fnatic. They're painting the map blue. 4 mercenary camps in rapid succession. And now Fnatic is in a position of comfort. They can fight if they want to, if they see an opportunity, but they don't have to. Tulin wanders into territory unknown by himself as a kind of a bait. Yeah. Trying to instigate a counterattack from his team, like pretending that he's alone, using the survivability of Arthas to live long enough. He pretends to be out of position, like a dog with a limping leg, and then the turnaround of the pack. But Red Canids will not get that opportunity yet.
Vieira caught out because of the silence there. He's able to get the ice block, but there is no minion to be able to survive that with. Wabi coming in, finally sealing the deal, and now it looks like Fnatic, with that beautiful rotation of Abuse of Fog of War, will find themselves the first keep of the game, but they want more. The silence there going on to Tulin. Do they have the damage? They do. 2 members dead. The cocoon reveal in a matter of seconds. It might be a third. And oh, they're not even going to pay attention to them. They want to end this game at 15 minutes, Grubby, and I think they have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, Red Canids looked so good in the beginning of the game. They survived through the mid game, but in the late game, Fnatic stands triumphant here with takedown after takedown, and they're looking to finish this game.
We saw so many opportunities throughout that entire game where Smexy there onto the Stukov opens with that silence, and then with any form of follow-up whatsoever, immediately, it's just a very simple kill unless your support is in prime position to be able to save you. And sadly, that was not a common circumstance here in this game for Red Canids, and Fnatic will take it 2-0.
But the problem for Fnatic remains. They've used Stukov now, but they still don't know if he's good. They defeat Red Canids, but it's not the greatest challenge that they will face yet at this tournament.
You are correct. That is the window kind of a loss for them here in Fnatic, and being able to hold that back maybe if they will, but I view it as maybe, what if they've got a lot weirder stuff down the rabbit hole that they might kind of show for us here in this tournament.
I wouldn't be surprised. As for Red Canids, they availed themselves admirably. You could almost say that they were always going to lose this match. It's just, you know, at some point with the skill and the power that these teams have shown, that Fnatic has shown, it is almost a foregone conclusion. And that may seem like a hopeless situation, but sometimes realism trumps. And the thing is, Red Canids was going to lose this series, but they did better than I thought.
I agree with you. The fact that even the first couple of minutes of that last series, or last game specifically, was pretty competitive up until Fnatic decides to, again, just turn it on and openly dominate throughout that game. So good showing here for Red Canids, though maybe didn't look that way to the average eye.
Yeah, it was a good showing. They were ahead. They got takedowns in this map as well. So, you know, you're up against Fnatic. Red Canids, I think they look better at mid-season brawl than at mid-season brawl here. They were more aggressive. They played together a bit more. They didn't die in the lane as much against some of these top teams. And mind you, they are against the reigning world champion here. So what can you do?
Yeah, no, just looking forward, you know, is really all they can. Take the learning experience here for Red Canids, and I think that's something that they expected. Again, the realism is kind of trumping here for the squad. So it's just taking what they managed to obtain in this short amount of time and hopefully furthering that for the remainder of the tournament. So again, we can see one of those non-elite regions kind of getting that upset once more.
Yeah, and let's see what our analyst desk has to say about this match here.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yes, that's right. We see Fnatic moving through 2-0 in their first match of the day up against Red Canids. Unfortunately for Red Canids, guys, they do fall down to the lower bracket now, but realistically for them, there was no surprise in that, Skimmy.
Yeah, I'm, to be quite honest, quite disappointed still from them, because they mentioned during the play interviews they want to go full out aggression. We know that that is really their pure strength, but both games they tried to take away the macro element, which they repeatedly said they're not strong at, try and take away what they're scared from of Fnatic, and at the end of the day, it was close, but could have been a different story.
Good showing by Fnatic, though. Were we more impressed by Stukov or Zul in that game? I can't really decide. It was fun to watch.
Oh, man. Both of them were cool. I loved the builds from both. We know that it is still going to be a lurking arm build, at least more standard for Smexy there. But I loved seeing the Spectral Scythe build likely going into Mortal Wound had we seen post 20 from the team. I know you were sad we didn't have level 20 for Fnatic as well.
Yeah, I wanted triple slap galore all over the place, but it's not to be. It's not to be. So, Trick, how did you see that series as well?
Still in tandem, the Zul and the Stukov together was actually very effective. In fact, I got a couple of replays to show you guys where we got to see 3 different ways that they were actually utilizing the Stukov engage, the silence being used, and of course the Zul bone prison. So let's go ahead and check those out if we get a chance here. As there were multiple ways we were using them. First off, the skeletal mages was really cool to watch off in fights. It was almost like a pseudo force wall, which was really impressive to see. So let's go ahead and go with this first pickoff. This is the first time that we saw the combo together. Wubby came in, dropped the bone prison. You're going to see the silence immediately afterwards. And the best part about this is Wubby just steps forward and shreds anyone one that comes in to help. Tulin walks in and he gets silenced.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it. It's like, because of the placement of it, there was nobody that could go in front to save Brightwing.
This one right here was really great. See how the Skeletal Mages are thrown down? This makes it impossible for Tassadar to do anything to save them without risking his own life. Lethal had to retreat, of course, and move away. And earlier, Brightwing used Phase Shift, so they were in a poor spot. Here, again, Brightwing doesn't use Phase Shift, but imagine if it actually went off. She would have Phase Shifted into a silence and couldn't blink heal out.
Yeah.
So very difficult situations for Red Canids to come in and actually force those fights. And I'm curious to see if we'll see more of the Zul/Stukov combination and how teams will deal with it.
I'm actually surprised that we didn't see the additional route from Stukov specifically at 13 getting virulent reaction, but in this case, being able to get lingering spines and make sure that the silence remained even after on the route allowed Smexy to be able to reposition if needed. And then not even needing amplified damage either, was able to get Bone Spear.
I mean, the way silences have been implemented in Heroes of the Storm historically is, as much as, like, yes, Alarak's Discord Strike has it available to him, most of them are on quite a long cooldown.
Sure.
The one that Stukov is bringing to the table here, Skimmy, is very powerful because it's a huge AoE and it's not even necessarily on a long cooldown.
Yeah, I mean, despite the change where it's been increased by another 4 seconds, it still has such a big impact given the amount of area it covers. So it's interesting to see, given how the supports were choked out as much as they were, that we were forced to see Stukov so early on into the Western Clash. But I'm imagining, as already mentioned, as this tournament progresses on, more Stukov and high priority as well.
I mean, let's talk about the weakness whenever you do use that arm and where it could be effective for teams to punish it. Whenever you drop down that arm, you're not able to use your Q, your W. You can use your trait if you've already dropped in the healing, of course, but still, you are actually stuck in a position. So if teams get good at coordinating aggression and trying to dive Stukov and kill him off, they can be effective. The thing is, in this matchup, Breeze was on point with protecting Stukov. Smexy never was in a spot where he was in trouble.
Do you think other teams can take away things from seeing what Fnatic have brought in this series, or do you think this is just part of the course for Fnatic?
I think it's safe standard. It was nothing too out of the ordinary. They're just having a bit of fun, to be quite honest. We talk about the Genji. It's a hero that you can just style on people with. If you're good at a hero, you can single-handedly win the game for your team. But, I mean, I wanted to see the aggression, really, from the Red Canids, especially against Stukov. Even Smexy was saying, we win with it, we win against it. We don't know how strong, really, Stukov is so far. But he's weak to dive. He's so susceptible to pressure being mounted upon him. So I would like to have seen Red Canids go in that direction from the start.
Any other final thoughts on Fnatic moving forward here, or even Red Canids before we go on to our next series?
I mean, I'm excited to see more Red Canids. I mean, I thought they looked pretty decent in the early game against Fnatic, and if that bodes well going forward during the losers bracket, they could be a team that surprises us. Maybe they'll get a victory here and knock someone out.
And who isn't excited to see more Fnatic? That's all I have to say. Love that we already got to see Stukov and Zul from them, hoping that we get to see them forced into more of those niche picks.
Yeah, we've seen the first step on the road here for Fnatic as we continue on here in the Western Clash. In just a few moments' time, we're going to have good old EU going up against North America. For now, though, a short break. And when we're back, we're going to have more from the Western Clash in just a few moments.
Introducing